Hi, the Mudbrooker here. This is a quick little follow-up video to my canning heirloom squash and saving the seeds video. I'm going to show you the last step in saving the seeds, but first I have something fairly important to tell you about canning squash. Now the USDA, shortly after I made this video, I became aware that the USDA no longer recommends canning zucchini and summer squash. Summer squash are things like zucchini, straight neck squash, crook neck squash, and zephyr squash, which are green on one end and yellow on the other, but they're basically a straight neck squash. There are other types of summer squash. You can look them up if you're curious as to whether or not that's what you have. But they no longer recommend canning those particular squash. They haven't fully tested them, so you can can them at your own risk if you want to, but it is no longer recommended. You can, however, still can pumpkins and winter squash. Winter squash are acorn squash, butternut, buttercup, Hubbard squash, turban squash, kombucha, which are a Japanese squash pretty similar to a buttercup squash, and of course pumpkins. Those are all fine, thoroughly tested, as long as you cut them into chunks and can them that way and don't try to can puree, you will be okay canning those. Anyway, these seeds have been drying for a couple of weeks now, and the way to tell that they're ready, that they're fully dried and ready for storage, is you take some of them, you rub them between your hands, and you'll notice that there is a very thin, hopefully I can find a bit here that'll show up on camera, a very thin papery sort of membrane that rubs right off. That's how you know that they're dry enough to be put away into storage. Well, here's a few of them laying right here. Hopefully you can get over here. Hopefully you can see them little tiny thin, almost transparent little membranes. Once those come off real easy, these are dried enough to be ready for storage. Now you don't have to remove the membrane to store them. I usually just take and kind of rub them through my hands a little bit and knock most of that off there. Once you've done whatever you're going to do before you pack them away, look over them one more time. See, I got a couple of them here. Hopefully you can see that. There's a little crack in there. Probably got nicked with a knife when I was cutting up the squash. And I'll pick that one out. But most of these look like they're pretty good. They're not quite as fat and round as they were when I put them in there. They flattened out some. But you can see that there's still definitely a kernel inside of the seed. And they're nice and solid. Anyway, I just kind of knock off most of that membrane, and then I just put them in a paper envelope. These are squash seeds from 2021. Now I'll put these away with the rest of my seeds in my, got a little plastic box I keep them in someplace nice and dark and warm on a shelf. And other than that, that's really all there is to saving heirloom squash seeds or pumpkin seeds. Real easy to save. If you get pumpkins or squash that you particularly like, go ahead and save the seeds. Plant them again next year. That's all I have to say. Don't can zucchini. It's not recommended or approved. And I'll see you guys next time.